the trending discussion amongst the dairy farmers is the high cost of production. What is your current cost of producing a single liter of milk? Greetings from wherever you are. Thank you for your support. More so for liking our videos and subscribing to our channel. At Dairy Networks, we guarantee you great content that will help you move your dairy farm from one level to the next level. Now, on this issue of cost of production, have you ever tried to break it down and see your biggest expenditure in a dairy farm? If you have or you haven't, you'll appreciate feeds and feeding is the greatest component that affects the cost of production. Most of the time as farmers, we concentrate so much on the unit cost. My silage is 5 shilling, my hay is 20 shilling per kilo, my dairy meal is 40 shilling. But we have never started this discussion of what is my feeding cost. The day we focus on that is the day we'll start to make good decisions in our dairy farm. For instance, here at Mbogori Dairy Farm, we focus more on the feeding cost more than the unit cost. To make it much easier, think of this dairy farmer who will spend 30,000 to produce 1 acre of maize, then yield 6 tons in that acre, versus Mbogori Dairy Farm that will do 1 acre at the same 30,000 but yield 15 to 20 tons. The first farmer, the cost of that silage will be 5 shilling without adding the ensiling cost. For Mbogori Dairy Farm will be just 2 shilling. That one gives them a big difference in terms of unit cost and also the feeding cost. This farmer who has achieved 15 tons stands higher chances to have more nutrients in that crop more than that failed crop that yielded 6 tons. So, while feeding, Mbogori will be able to achieve at least 8 liters from that maize silage as compared to the other farmer who will yield barely 4 or 5 liters, a difference of 3 liters per day. Now, look at it from this angle. The cost of the unit cost is difference is 3 shilling. The feeding cost, the output difference is 3 liters. If you're selling your milk at 40 shilling, the difference of 3 liters means 120. If this farmer who produced 6 tons feeds 30 kgs per day, it means their difference is 90 shilling with the Mbogori Dairy Farm. So the total difference is 120 plus 90. That one now gives you a difference of 210 shilling per day per cow. That's the first secret on how much you produce in a dairy farm and at what cost. And don't look at it from just the feeding directly, but also the output. Another good example here at Mbogori Dairy Farm is the cost of dairy meal. With just 9 kgs, we are able to achieve 36, 38 liters at peak production. The same farmer who achieved 6 tons will have to spend more on dairy meal to match that production. So even on dairy meal, don't just look at the unit cost, but also check on the feeding cost and the output. The other critical thing on the addressing the issue of cost of production management, it's how much fodder I as a farmer can produce in a dairy farm. At Mbogori, we are able to get energy, so almost sufficient energy from maize silage. We know our cows need proteins. So that's why we have legumes there at a rate of about 5 to 8 kgs per cow per day. This one now gives us an extra 4 liters to achieve the 12 liters production per cow per day without any form of supplementation. So, as a farmer who is struggling with the high cost of production, ask yourself, how am I addressing my unit cost of my fodder, and secondly, my feeding cost for the same? Another classical example that most of us farmers get ourselves into. Behind me is hay. These cows only get 3 kgs maximum per cow per day for hay. A farmer who will feed exclusively on hay will barely get 4 liters in a day. But as we only need to maintain that low fiber intake so that we get more intake from silage and the legumes. So, appreciate the kind of fodder that will work very well for you. And for a fact, maize silage is the way to go. The second thing that will affect your cost of production. Cows normally feed based on the dry matter. Dry matter doesn't end there. We also consider something called the dry matter intake. For example, these cows need a 20 kgs dry matter intake. In one of our videos with Mkulima Willy Care, we explained very well what dry matter means. Now, in this trough, as you can see, the trough are full throughout the day with fresh fodder. This one means this cow has access to feed throughout the day. Cows are not like us human beings, whereby we can enjoy our breakfast, we can enjoy our lunch, we can enjoy our supper or dinner. For cows, it's not that way. It must be there. It must be fresh. The trough must be cleaned daily. By just doing that, you increase that intake of dry matter. It makes sure that whatever is there is equally palatable. To further on that, make sure that trough is highly accessible. Some troughs normally are too uncomfortable for cows. You look at here, the cow has some sort of injuries. You look at the front limbs, you will see some sort of injury. It means that place is not comfortable. Now, look at it from this angle. You have served your delicious meal, but it's far from you. You have to strain to get it. Would you eat to your satisfaction, or will you just eat for enough to cure your hunger? Very important. The other important, it's access to water. These cows have access to clean water throughout the day. And lastly, these cows, as we said earlier, they rest at least 16 hours. So it means where they rest very well, that there are sufficient flow of blood and the milk synthesis is not affected. The milk synthesis is optimal. Also, when they rest for those hours, they are able to ruminate and digest their feed very well. That little thing will increase you 1 or 2 liters and probably lower your cost of production. To lower your cost of production again, you need to breed efficient cows. Have you ever checked on a bull catalog? When you look at the bull catalog, you will see feed conversion efficiency, all feed saved. Breeding cows that are efficient will always lower your cost of production. They can make more from the little they take. Also, if you breed huge cows, the input will also be very high. If you breed as medium statured cows, 500, 600 kgs fresh yarn, the intake again won't be that high, but the production will also be higher. Look at it from this angle. Cows feed 4% of their body weight. A cow producing 25 liters and it's 800 kgs, and a cow producing the same liter but it's 500 kgs. Their intake in a day, it's totally different. Breed cows that can produce more milk. Cash flow in a dairy farm is very important. Most of the times during when we are conducting our trainings and consultancy, this question keeps on coming. I don't have money, yet I know I'm supposed to dry my cows and manage them very well. I can't even afford dairy meal. Now, that one now tells you that farm has poor cash flow. Manage your cash flow very well. Here at Mbogori, we said cows are they are bred in batches. This one makes sure that there is a good flow of milk. One bottom line, like here in Bogori, they must sell more than 250 liters in a day to remain afloat. If they go down to 100 liters, it means they'll have to look for money somewhere else to pump into cows to be able to maintain them very well. So breed your cows in a sequential manner. Procurement policy is a very important aspect. Like currently, Bogori Dairy Farm aren't able to produce sufficient hay to last them throughout the year. For this case, they have to buy that hay when the prices are reasonably low. Currently, there is a big challenge with hay. What was the retaining at 200 shilling, now it's headed to 350 and others are selling at 400. It means the farmer who didn't have a good procurement policy, who didn't observe their stock levels, is now buying the same product expensively. Very, very important. Supplementation in a dairy farm is very important, but sometimes we exaggerate. We supply maybe one nutrient a lot. Like sometimes you visit a farmer who will tell you, this is my dairy farm, I'm feeding canola, I'm feeding soya, all of them being protein sources. But what they are missing is on energy. So the excess they are feeding goes into waste, but still they have deficiency on another nutrient. Always know what you want to, always know your supplementation levels and understand where you are supplementing them. For example, here in Bogori Dairy Farm, it's just dairy meal. Nothing else is added to those cows apart from minerals, simply because they are getting sufficient from the shamba. If they didn't have legumes, they opt to be adding now the protein because it will even be sufficient in dairy meal. So always understand your supplementation, always understand your supplementation levels and have an explanation why you should do that. On human resource, have an efficiency system that favors all the parties. You need them sober, you need them healthy, and also you need to address their needs. Why don't you have a good term, why don't you have a good contract with them that every party is involved into it? Put system in place, let everything run very well, and your cost of production will always go low. In case you are there watching us and you are struggling, at Dairy Networks we have this slogan, Uza ng'ombe, lisha ng'ombe. Simply means, if Mbogori Dairy Farm, they were to stock out today their fodder, they can sell heifers or they can sell some cows, outsource that fodder and maintain the others. The production will be relatively affected, but will be optimal. The fertility won't be affected. It's not, it's a good practice to always uza ng'ombe, lisha ng'ombe if you are struggling. If you are dairy farmer struggling with the cost of production, is it the high time you maintain the productive animals that are giving you good cash flow and you do with the others? Maybe you say, I'm no longer keeping my calves because it's a cost in the farm. I have to spend every day and there's no money coming from them until they are they have carved down into years' time. Probably that cow that is producing 10 liters and others are doing 20, it's high time you cull that animal. We highly advise farmers always have a selection and culling criteria, and this one will address your cost of production at a reasonable, it will address your cost of production with an appreciable margin. Think about this one. Instead of that dairy structure you have, instead of that dairy unit you have in your farm, what if you did some rentals there? Then instead of the tenants paying you, it's you who pay tenants to live in your land, in your houses. Does it make sense? Absolutely not. And if it's not, that one now gives you a good reason to uza ng'ombe, lisha ng'ombe. Lastly, on the cost of production, good record keeping practices, good record keeping culture. We always tell you what you are supposed to do. It will always inform your decision. Unfortunately, most of us dairy farmers, we make emotional decisions regarding our dairy cows. For example, you have your favorite cow based on color, based on structure, but the least productive cow. Since you don't have the records, you will continue maintaining that cow for the longest time possible. Have that record keeping culture. That record keeping culture will help you to make informed decisions. The informed decisions will favor your business. Think of as someone who starts a kiosk with a barely 50,000 Kenyan shilling. We will keep all records very well. The sales, the inventory, everything will be perfect. But a dairy farmer, you have invested hundreds of thousands. There are no records. Sometimes you go to dairy trainings and sometimes you go to dairy farm consultants. You ask for records, as simple as even milk production for yesterday. And they are not there. They will only tell you, we sold 200 liters yesterday. From how many cows? We milked 15 cows. Who, your top producer, maybe this one, we feel like. Now, the moment you drop, we feel like, we think, and you say these are the facts, that's the day you will be able to make a very informed decision regarding your dairy farm. Again, we pose the challenge to you. Do you know your cost of producing a cow? A liter of milk. Do you know the cost of producing a liter of milk? Do you know the cost of rearing your heifer up to maturity? That is the first calving. Do you know the cost of your fodder? That is the hay, the silage, name them. Probably you buy your hay at 250 shilling, thinking it's 15 kgs, only to realize it's 10 kgs. So whenever you are doing your calculation, they are not accurate. Have a tendency of even weighing what you have in your dairy farm. Once you get those basic three, then ask yourself, what is the bare minimum liters of milk I should produce in a day to maintain the entire farm? From there, you will be able to make informed decisions and you will be able to address this monster called the cost of production. See you in the next video where we highlight on the dairy value, the farmer dairy value chain, and the points where a farmer can diversify and make an extra coin. Who hates an extra coin? I believe it's not you, it's not me. And if it's not you, that's why you are supposed to subscribe there and you learn on how to diversify in a dairy farm.